Hello, my name is Max Ritter, and welcome to Birdie Talk. We here at BT are dedicated to bringing you the best news possible on all things beaked. Today we're bringing you the very first video installment of our interview series, Chirp Chat. In order to diversify our content and fulfill the requirements of a college assignment, I am jumping off the page and moving past the written word. Today we have a very special guest. Here to teach us about birds and the environment, I have a local bird lover and the president of the Avian Voters of America, Max Ritter. Max, thank you for coming. It's an honor to be here, Max. Long-time reader, first-time interview subject. All right, let's get crowing, shall we? Tell me a bit about why you're here. Besides the obvious academic reasons, I'm here today to inform the public on something essential: the natural world's connection to birds. Our environment needs birds, and our birds need the environment. Not to nitpick, but I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I mean, of course we all know it as a simple fact, but the implications of this reality are often difficult to find a consensus on. We all live on Earth, and we all rely on the Earth's resources, and yet we still have people that don't find it important to preserve it. Heartbreaking. Disheartening. Disheartbreaking. I believe it would be disheartbreaking, not disheartenbreaking. Alright, well, to begin, I want to outline just a small portion of the importance that our birds have for us as humans. Firstly, it's important to note that there are all kinds of birds in this world, with different regions having different species. Some birds serve as predators, which help maintain the population of their prey. Some birds help pollinate plants or spread seeds. Some birds are even considered keystone species because their importance in an ecosystem far outweighs their actual population in it. So there's no specific spot in a food web where you would find birds. No, they serve a wide variety of purposes in ecology. Whether you're looking at a chain, a web, or a pyramid, birds are all over the place. And as interesting as that is, some could say that birds are no different than mammals. What ecologically sets birds apart? It's a good question. I do my best. I'm a professional. It shows. To answer your well-executed question, I would have to say that it's largely utility. Birds have unique traits that you usually can't find in other classes of animals. Birdie Talk has written about some of these before, like the hummingbird having the highest metabolism in the animal kingdom, while also possessing the ability to go into a state of torpor. But when you're looking at the wider scale, birds' flight allows them to access different uses in nature. These are especially effective environmental indicators. They interact with trees in ways that ground-restricted animals cannot, and migratory birds can affect different regions in different seasons by moving throughout the year. Alright, well, now I'm no expert, but it sounds like birds are pretty important. They really are. They affect our lives in ways people usually don't think about. Alright, so we've established the essential nature of birds in our world. But why does that matter? I appreciate the birds around me. They're not going anywhere. They actually might not be as safe as you think. Birds are dwindling in population, and it's our fault. Well, it's not our fault, me and you as individuals, but humanity's collective fault. Of course, humanity's collective anything is usually awful. But a lot of people might have the wrong idea when it comes to these problems. For example, what do you think is the problem with humanity's impact on birds? Well, we're killing them left and right. We're killing them for nuggets and wings and offensive holidays, and we even kill them for sport. It's no wonder we're concerned for where their population is. But you see, you fell into the same misconception that most people seem to. Hunting and agriculture are not actually the major problems. Wild chickens still exist. The ones we eat are specifically bred and raised to be eaten. And hunting can actually contribute to conservation. Okay, how can hunting animals help though? It might seem like a stretch, but it's actually not. Hunters have to pay to hunt, especially people that go for big game. The hunting money goes to the Fish and Wildlife Service of the Department of the Interior. So if I wanted to go shoot wild turkeys, I would need to go through the legal loopholes with the government. A lot of the money that Interior receives from hunters, it goes towards conservation. Isn't that pretty counterintuitive? I mean, it seems awfully contradictory. It's really not. Hunters usually want nature to stay the same, at least in my experience. Why would they let the population of wildlife go down? That's less for them to hunt, and the natural world is what gives them their way of life. Fair enough. I guess that checks out. But if farmers and hunters aren't to blame, then why are birds in danger? Humanity's major damage on wildlife is mostly indirect. A big issue is habitat destruction. As we expand, we interfere with ecosystems, and a lot of the times it can cause serious detriments to the local environment. Oh, you mean like big corporations? Large companies definitely do a lot of damage, but it's not good to use them as a scapegoat. Regular people, especially here in America, are often causing their own damage. There's tons of demand for lodges out in the woods where it's secluded. But ironically, this demand leads to loss of lodges and forests, and therefore less seclusion to enjoy. Okay, how does my summer home near the lake hurt birds? It's not quite that simple to connect the dots, which is why people usually don't consider it. But as people move to new residential areas, businesses will move there. New roads will be made, and more trees will be cut down. Besides, every time you make a new road in the forest, you're chopping it up into smaller, weaker pieces. This, on top of industry's natural tendencies to expand, lead to serious harm. Plants and animals get shoved out of the way for a parking lot or a campsite or whatever, and then that sends a ripple through the natural environment, including the birds that we need so much. Wow, so this could have intense ramifications. Yes, but deforestation isn't the full battle. Other environmental issues that affect people can affect wildlife even more. Major cases of pollution, especially regarding air and water, can crush local bird communities. Think of all those pictures from the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. It was often a seagull or a pelican caught in the oil. Plus, in general, having unhealthy chemicals in rivers or streams will often harm birds before it harms us. Yes, I definitely think it's worth acknowledging that we face similar environmental issues, but I feel like that's less of a priority, don't you think? Well, I clearly don't think that, so maybe you can expand on your point instead of asking a hypothetical question. Well, things like pollution affect us as well. As you stated, they're also pressing to humans. So there's an inherent motivation to deal with those problems. Our incentive to clean up oil spills quickly and efficiently is largely for ourselves. But that also means helping the animals around us. Sometimes the inherent economic driver of trying to protect and keep resources can be a positive thing for the world. That's a fair argument, but ultimately it falls flat. In an ideal world, everybody would agree on handling environmental crises that are endangering the human population. It makes sense on all logical levels. But we live in a world of many different opinions and perspectives. Different cultures and backgrounds view the earth in different ways, and the simple truth is that some people prioritize business over environmentalism. While I was preparing for this interview, the Trump administration announced it was scrapping Obama-era regulations that helped protect the environment. Things are better than they were, but we have a lot of work to do. This actually functions as a nice transition into my biggest question. What do we do to help our planet's birds? That did function very well as a transition. It's uncanny. It's almost as if this was a pre-written interview. Oh. Oh, wow. Whew. But to answer your question fully off the top of my head, I don't want to make it seem like I have all the answers. I'm not a scientist or anything, I'm just an advocate for the world of the winged. So I would say the only definitive answer is to care. Put thought and time into how you can help. I've done research for this interview, but everyone watching should do research on their own. Find facts and options to make a difference, individually. Inspiring. Borderline jaw-dropping. Thank you. My final question is one that I like to ask all of my guests. What do birds mean to you? Gosh, I really have to think about that one. I guess my entire life I've longed to fly. I watched films like Aladdin and Peter Pan, and I yearned to join them in the air. But instead, all I could do was watch and envy as the avian soldiers of the world soared up in the clouds. What could I do? I slowly grew to hate birds. I considered them nothing but feathery rat spawn with flight capabilities. Sadly, I lived the majority of my life in this darkness. Until eventually I started to read about birds. Granted, I read about them for the purpose of formulating an ultimate scheme for their destruction. But as I learned about the incredible intricacies of their anatomy and their behavior, I was taken aback. I was amazed. I knew I wasn't alone in hating birds, but I now realized that I was on the wrong team. So I changed teams. I founded the Avian Voters of America, an official FEC-registered political action committee to help advocate for the protection of birds and for the avian image. So what do birds mean to me? They're my life. They're my passion. They're my muse. They're the wind beneath my wings. And every time a bird looks at me with those eyes that just silently thank me for my pursuits, it feels like I'm able to take flight. Wow. Well, before we take off, any final notes for our viewing audience? No, I don't think so. Alright, well, thank you, Max, for coming. Thank you, Max, for having me. And on behalf of all of us here at BirdieTalk.biz, I'm Max Ritter signing off. Before you go, remember, never move a nest and never fight a goose. Thank you. So to begin,